And whether or not their voters are going to agree, a conversation we're about to have, looking at some of the by-election results. I mean, the African National Congress, for example, in KZN, saying the results of Wednesday's by-elections confirm that they still have the support of voters in the province. But interestingly, the hotly contested Ward 73 in the eThekwini Municipality remains in the hands of the Democratic Alliance. We saw President Cyril Ramaphosa campaign here. We're about to talk about this in just a moment. And Ward 15 in Mandeni and Ward 12 in uMzimkhulu were retained by the ANC, and the elections, of course, came following the deaths of councillors in Mandeni and uMzimkhulu and a councillor's resignation in Ward 73. Now, election analyst Wayne Sussman joins us now in studio for more election talk. Wayne, thank you so much for your time. I'd like us to start with Ward 73 because Ward 73, we saw some interesting dynamics towards that by-election. We saw even President Cyril Ramaphosa descend, on that particular community, but it doesn't look like this was enough for it to change hands.
Correct. So that's the macro picture. President Ramaphosa going there to campaign. There were 5 by-elections in South Africa and the ANC sent him there. But then on a local level, the candidate for the ANC was the former DA ward councillor. And that particular councillor had won a ward in Chatsworth on 4 previous occasions. So he was going for his 5th straight ward win. And he fell very much short as the DA got over 80% of the vote. And this was a key by-election because we haven't had many by-elections since 2021 in areas which are predominantly Indian. And we know that's a big part of KwaZulu-Natal. We know that there have been fluctuations amongst Indian voters in the past. And this is a very, very good result for the Democratic Alliance in Chatsworth.
And interestingly, because even when he, the former ward councillor for the DA, that is Ronnie Pillay, raising the concerns about the party not dealing, with what he calls allegations of corruption that are reported to some of the party structures. This was not enough, for him to then sway the voters towards the ANC, which is now his new home. And we saw some of his supporters wearing T-shirts on the day President Cyril Ramaphosa was there.
Correct. So that was part of the political theatre, and you spoke about election season. We're on the road to 2024. We are going to see pictures of thousands of people across South Africa donning new party shirts and throwing the old ones into the bin. We see that a lot in South African politics. Clearly not enough. There was one good takeaway for the ANC from this election. There's a part of Chatsworth called Croft Dean, and they did quite well there. They showed growth there, but clearly not enough because the DA got over 80% of the vote. And
looking at some of the other results, I mean, we're listening to the IFP president now talking about how they are put in good stead and they're looking at 2024, they're going to reclaim lost ground. And then you think about the DA doing so well in Ward 73, they're likely to feel emboldened going into next year's election, particularly in the province, and the ANC, a rock-solid showing in Mandeni and other parts as well. What should we be reading into these results going into next year, particularly where KZN is concerned?
Great. So there were 2 other by-elections, both seats retained by the ANC. Just spoke about Mandeni. When we look at the IFP's consistent growth since 2021, it's in northern KwaZulu-Natal. Mandeni is near the village of Sundumbili, is near the Tugela River mouth, near Ishawi, and Kwadakuza. And here we saw the ANC. This is northern KwaZulu-Natal, part of the province of the IFP is doing very well. The ANC is totally rock solid. The IFP are battling to make inroads. The ANC will be very, very happy about that result. But then we go to uMzimkhulu, and I want to remind the viewers, this is the Harry Gwala district in southern KwaZulu-Natal. This is the fortress of ANC support in the province. There is no better municipality and no better district for the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. And here we see the IFP, who in contrast has no presence in uMzimkhulu at present, going from 1% of the vote to 25% of the vote. If the IFP can replicate close to that kind of growth in other parts of southern KwaZulu-Natal, that's of great concern to the ANC. So we're seeing contrasting performances in the southern KwaZulu-Natal, traditional ANC stronghold, and then in the northern KwaZulu-Natal where the ANC did well.
Wayne, I can't let you go without looking at another interesting result that I saw. Ward 25 in Ekurhuleni. I really was looking at what is going on there. You think about the fact that the area goes to the Democratic Alliance again. But interestingly enough, in the 3rd position, the EFF.
Correct. So let's just, again, I like to make these places come to alive for people. Petit, which is part of Ward 25, where Charlize Tron, our famous actor, she spent some of her formative years. This is the largest ward in the whole of Ekurhuleni. And here, yes, the DA held, and the Freedom Front came second. But interestingly enough, no one saw this coming. The EFF beating the ANC for third place, doing well in areas like Elandsfontein and Bapsfontein, and a lot of that growth at the expense of the ANC. And one of the reasons why they did this, they chose a very interesting lady. Let's be honest, it was a white dreadlock lady who's very well known for her work with the very impoverished communities there. And if you choose the right candidate, you can grow. And candidates are going to matter now, and candidates will grow and will matter on the road to the elections in 2024.
Wayne, as we wrap up very briefly before I let you go, some analysts say that the by-elections are not necessarily something to watch as a mood reader for the tone of next year's election. But do you agree with that sentiment, or should we be looking at these by-elections very closely in the lead up to 2024?
I think these give us a much better indication than someone's opinion on social media. Once we see a pattern of results in Gauteng or KwaZulu-Natal, we'll see that trends are developing. So we mustn't just focus on isolated by-elections, but let's look at it over the time and keep on having the conversation and see who has the momentum between now and 2024.
So I'm going to keep having this conversation with you because I'm fascinated by some of what we're seeing coming out, particularly Ward 25 has been the one that, really has been so interesting for me when you think about the results. But thank you so much for stopping by. I do appreciate your time. That is, of course, Wayne Sussman. He's an elections analyst. And I tell you what, if you look at some of what, he posts on his timeline, the reading of some of these by-elections, you're going to be just as fascinated when you learn about some of the demographics in these areas.